What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another F1 24 video. As always, my team. This is round 5, the Miami Grand Prix. So we're heading over to Florida in the States for, it's a bit of a street circuit around the Hard Rock Cafe, and it should be a good one. It is a sprint race. Let me get my words out properly. And yeah, as always, just filling up the activities just there, checking what we have in development, but we don't have very many resource points to spend and not too much cash either. So I don't think we're going to be able to do any upgrades in particular, but we do have a couple on the way, and in the last episode we did have a powertrain upgrade come on, so we do have another spot there to start an upgrade when we want. Now, I've been trying to upgrade the facilities, specifically the personnel. It's just going to help with Jarno's pace, his experience, his racecraft, awareness, all of that good stuff, as well as the pit stops.
Welcome back to Miami and welcome to qualifying. Only raw speed will separate these drivers today, but the question is, who's got what it takes to get pole?
Probably a team that has the pace. We have been bringing upgrades, so have the other teams, so it's been slow going in the championship. We are going to throw in a good lap though here in sprint qualifying 1. Obviously you've got to do the mediums in sprint qualifying, can't change to softs, but it's all about just trying to get the most out of the car as through those first few corners, mounting those curbs like there's no tomorrow. As we've been kind of trying to use the curbs, especially through practice, just to maximize our rotation mid-corner, potentially on the entry into the corners as well, just to enable us really to throw the car in and just go as quick as we can through the corners. We've got pretty low wings, I want to say, for these tremendously long, lovely straights, and that gives us plenty of speed both to defend as well as attack. Now through the sort of snail section, it's very slow here, but you want to mount those curbs as much as possible, then get the car back over to the right hand side for that very sort of tight left-hander with the wall is so close on exit, and then it's just a long run down with the DRS to the last kind of official corner. The rest are just kinks, if that makes sense. So I've mounted those curbs horribly there, but running up towards the line past the pit entry, yeah, just really trying to get as much out of the car as possible. That sits as P13 on the road, which is pretty good for a start, and that's where we end up in the end. We did try to go out for a second run, but there was no time left on the board. So moving into sprint qualifying 2, it's going to be a good one. We've already done one lap, which was kind of like a warm-up lap, like a secondary warm-up lap, just to burn off a bit of fuel, get us in the best position possible so we can extract some time. Now the delta in the top right does look amazing. I would love to be 4 seconds, 5 seconds up on any qualifying run I do in the game ever. It would be fantastic. But yeah, we're really trying to maximize every inch of the track, getting on the curbs, running as close to the track limits as we dare. Obviously in qualifying, it's huge. You've got to stay inside of track limits, because otherwise that is your lap over and potentially your tyres burnt as well. As we go a little bit deep into the first part of this sort of slower section, we cut that corner nicely, back end really wanting to step out there and there as well, and that's going to completely burn our time away from us that we gained through the rest of the lap. Obviously we're going to beat our previous lap. We're in 16th, everyone else is ahead of us. A lot of these cars like Albon, Ricciardo, Zhou, potentially similar car pace to us, obviously a bit faster in a few different areas. We have a really good engine, but our chassis and aero is not as good. As that result, P16 shows you. We do well in the straights.
It's wet here today and we're expecting those downpours to continue. This will make for a difficult sprint for all the teams. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's sprint. It's Carlos Sainz in pole position and Max Verstappen lines up alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Leclerc, Perez, Norris, Oscar Piastri, Fernando Alonso, Russell, Hamilton, Stroll, Gasly, Ocon, Albon, Ricciardo, Joe, Brown, Tsunoda, Magnussen, Bottas, Hülkenberg, Sargent, and the owner driver rounds off the grid. Which of these drivers will get pole position today? We'll soon find out.
Indeed, we will.
Close to scoring points last race. Let's make it happen today, eh?
Yeah, again, we've been doing pretty well in the first part of the season, really getting the most out of the car. It is a very wet race. We have a dry setup. We're in P16. Lights are on. Now they're out, and we get going for the sprint race in Miami. You can see it's horrendously wet for us, and we send it completely down the outside. See if we can get around the outside of our rival here, Alex Albon. We really need to beat him in any kind of race condition, because in qualifying he is very potent as a driver. He can really put a lap together, but we've done it. We're actually into P10 already. No points for that in the sprint race. Points in the sprint is from 8th or above, which is currently Alonso, who's side by side with Hamilton into this corner. And yeah, we've got to find our feet pretty early on in this sprint race. It's wet conditions. The AI will be all over the traction. They obviously, unless they're making a mistake, perfect traction every time for their tyre wear and everything like that. As we go round the outside, maybe we just kind of went a little bit deep to stop Gasly from sending it on the inside. As we go a little bit wide again, trying to use alternate lines here as the AI, look how slow it is on the first lap of any race condition. Think about sending it down the inside of George Russell in the Mercedes, as now Gasly is all over the back of us thanks to his, well, alien traction ability. But again, a little bit of battery, a little bit of straight line speed. We're almost breaking into the back of Russell, but we send it down the inside instead. We turn defense into attack. We leave a bit of space on the exit, a horrendous amount of wheel spin over the curb as well. And Russell's able to just out-traction us, out-drag us in the Mercedes, but we are going to come back at him. Potentially use him as a bit of a buffer between us and Gasly, and potentially get us a little bit closer to beating Alex Albon in the rivalry. But that horrible traction that we face, the wheel spin we're getting with the current setup, low downforce in the wet, tricky conditions to say the least, and we are just absolutely burning rubber on every exit to try and put the power down, try and make the most of our straight line speed, low drag setup. But here comes George Russell on our right hand side. He's absolutely destroying us in the straight thanks to the drag reduction of that Mercedes. We're 3 wide now. We're heading down in towards this sort of tighter section of the track. I think that's Albon trying to get up the inside of Gasly as well, as now it's still 3 wide, going extremely slowly just to give each other space. And we do come out on top in that one, and we take the bollard with us for good measure on the inside of that sort of very slow chicane there. Again, we're running out of battery now. We're not going to be able to fight off Russell for very much longer. We're going to do our best though as he goes to the inside. Again, with a bit of the slipstream, bit of his battery, and he is gone. Purely because of the difference in the cars. Better chassis, better aero. I don't want to say better durability because that doesn't count for anything in this moment. Here comes Gasly, though, looking to the outside into turn 1. So we go a little bit deep, try and cut off any idea of him sticking it around the outside. It does seem that the rain is very light, but again, slightly greasy conditions, not much grip on the track. We only had qualifying and then it was raining. So we go through the S section of Sector 1. You can just see a little train of cars forming behind us from this aerial shot. And you can just see how close they get to us under brakes into that corner. They do take a slightly different line. I try and do a late apex to, again, get as far away as we can, get the power down into the straight, but it might not even matter as Gasly's trying to thread the needle in between us and the wall there. On the outside now is Gasly. We're going to, again, try and force him to the outside of the track. Try and keep a bit of track position in this part where it's almost impossible to overtake, especially if your name ends in AI. And a little bit deep into that corner. We've done well not to end up catching our front wing in there as we move along to lap 4 now. And again, even on the minimap in the bottom left,
We think this rain should stop sometime in the next few laps. So we should see a
And-
dry line starting to form fairly rapidly, so make sure you cool your tyres down the straights. We're
Yeah.
not certain which is the best tyre right now, dries or inters.
okay, Mark, we get it. The rain's getting lighter as DRS has enabled this lap, which usually means it's super dry or ready for the slick tires, no questions asked. And that's not good. You can see actually the rears are burning up already. Even moving offline doesn't seem to cool them at all. We're going to have to box, otherwise these tires will start to explode. Even the front right is taking a beating as we can't even make that corner in first gear there. And we are going to box and probably put on some soft tires. And it's only me and Gasly coming into the pits now. As you can see, everybody else going past the pit entry, carrying on for another lap. Have we made the wrong call here? Or have the AI bottled their strategy? There is a few. There's a McLaren of Piastri and the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz in the pit as well. As now we're trying to get out ahead of Gasly, but Gasly manages to jump us in the pits. It's not ideal for our race. We're down in P19. There are a couple of cars behind us of Ricciardo and Bottas, who are also on slick tyres. Sainz, 8 seconds up the road. We have no thought of ever catching him, especially in a Ferrari, but even by 8 seconds on his brand new mediums versus our brand new softs will hopefully give us an advantage in these sort of potentially still slightly damp conditions and help us to bring our tyres temperature much quicker. As we now look to the outside after using a nice bit of DRS and slipstream down that sort of first back straight. Gasly's trying to stick a wing in the inside around this really slow section, but we do give him space. We're not that aggressive. We are quite aggressive, especially when it comes to defense in this kind of my team career so far. As now Gasly gets a great run as we have a lot of wheel spin there coming out of that sort of very fast first right-handers. Now through the S section we go. Again, just trying to measure up this corner. It's a very tricky sort of turning, tightening, braking zone, and there's no real brake references that I can come up with for that corner. As suddenly, out of nowhere, Gasly and Stroll with DRS and Ricciardo all flying past. As I just like to roll it into the corner here, see what the other cars do and see how they go. As Ricciardo really tries to cut us off there. We do bang wheels a little bit with him, and now we're just going to follow Gasly and Stroll through this slow section. Thought about it again, sending it on Gasly into that tight left-hander. It's extremely tight. You don't really want to be running side by side through there. But if you can get a little good run and jab the throttle out of the slow right-hander of the chicane, you can make it work. So we're all over the back of Gasly under brakes. Don't know if he has an issue with this car, but I'm very surprised that we are able to get so close under braking. Ricciardo with the fastest lap, he's just behind us. That is quickly taken away by Nico Hulkenberg, as there's 5 cars here in the fight for P16. It's nothing good, no points for it. We're not beating Albon. It's almost like practice for the main race at this point, but we're going to do our best to get back ahead of Gasly, at least give us some bragging rights over Alpine today, as they are very close to us in the Constructors' Championship. But speaking of trying to go forward, we're going backwards here as Daniel Ricciardo comes swooping past with DRS, use of his battery that's clearly saved up, as now Tsunoda as well has gone up the inside. They are both on the soft tyres. We're going to try and sneak a wing down the inside of Tsunoda, and he jumps out of the way as soon as he sees us in his wing mirror. And now through this tight section here, we do send it this time up the inside, but again, as I said, you've got to really slow down so much to keep it side by side and to not have contact. To keep your front wing, you have to go slow. We did have to give up that position, but now we're going to have another go, as Ricciardo does not have DRS, but we do. It's the very last corner of the race. We're into second here. Ricciardo has a better line with more rubber and everything on the outside, the better racing line. He has the grip. We're using all of our battery up towards the line, but it's not enough.
Okay, pick up rubber and bring it home.
P19 for us in the sprint race. Not ideal. Not ideal. But tricky conditions and a tricky strategy call.
Well, that's an end to the sprint action. Next up, we'll set the grid for the Grand Prix. So we'll see you next time.
Indeed you will, Crofty. So that's it for the sprint. As you can see, a bit tricky. Even McLaren of Piastri and Ferrari of Sainz, who boxed, didn't make up any other positions. Ended up having Logan Sargent in P9, Albon all the way up in P6, which is a massive, massive blow to our championship fight with Williams and specifically Alex Albon. And yeah, everyone who stayed out on Inters, with the exception of with Hamilton and Perez, ended up with good positions. So it's just about strategy in that race as we tried to go.
Welcome back to Miami and welcome to qualifying. Only raw speed will separate these drivers today, but the question is, who's got what it takes to get pole?
Indeed, we're thinking on the race results from yesterday. We're fighting with Alonso in Q1 as well. It's not even practice or the race, but trying to get a bit of track position, but Alonso doesn't like that. Thankfully he is in a faster car, so he shouldn't hold us up at all and potentially will give us some slipstream, as it was Inters at the start of qualifying, but we saw that the rain was going away and it would go to dries, so we kind of stayed in the garage, and now we are setting our one and only lap on the soft tyre, which could really help us. Everyone is out on track doing their final lap of Q1, so we'll see how fast we go. We're getting the DRS, we're using all of our battery, hoping we're able to save some in this sort of S section as we lock the rear slightly into that heavy braking zone. Sticking to the back of Alonso relatively well. We're not as close now as we were down the pit straight, but through this S section you can see, just because we're able to, I don't want to say abuse, but abuse track limits a little bit in that S section, we're able to get a little bit closer. We don't have any battery for this back straight. We weren't able to recharge it enough, but we used a little bit towards the end. As gaining on Alonso, we do lock up a little bit, go down into second, go a little bit deep. Now it's all about putting the power down. Norris gets the fastest lap. We are taking it to the inside. And P11. So we're learning a little bit. Getting better at the track, finding the grip. getting the most out of it and safely through to Q2. And no big shocks here, really. We did qualify above Albon. Obviously it's not finished yet. We have Q2 to go, which we're in right now. And again, we're going to try and do the best we can here, as we're never going to do less than our best. But use everything we've learned from the sprint, use everything we learned from Q1 and sprint qualifying to try and bring it all together now. We're not hoping to get into Q3 here. We're hoping just to beat Alex Albon in the Williams. So as much pace as we can bring, push every boundary that we can in this car. We have the best engine, as I said before. We don't have the best drag reduction. We don't have the best chassis. We'll be heavier than other cars. The weight distribution won't be any good. It's like having sandbags just placed randomly in the car sometimes, which is potentially not helping us when it comes to cornering and sudden direction changes. Like this chicane, we do struggle a little bit with a slight snap of oversteer from time to time. We mount that curb beautifully.
Right, that's us down into
And
P16 now.
yeah, it says we're half a second slower than I'm assuming P10. But we're going to see as we get towards the line. We do go horrendously deep there. I tried braking a bit later, but it was not worth it at all. It ruined that last sector. We do run up to the line. We're going to carry on for another lap, I think. We have the fuel, but we're just not finding any time on this lap. We didn't find anything. We're losing time because we don't have the battery. The tyres are worn and we spin it. Somehow managed to keep it out of walls there, but that is our day done. And yeah, only managed P16. The last of the Q2 runners. It's annoying, but I think consistently getting into Q2 is definitely like moving forwards.
Welcome to the Miami International Autodrome, home of the Miami Grand Prix. This exciting track circumnavigates the Hard Rock Stadium, home to the National Football League outfit, the Miami Dolphins. Sitting at the southeastern coast of Florida, the Miami International Autodrome has 19 corners and 3.36 miles of racing. It's a circuit designed to encourage close racing while meeting the highest safety standards. Either way, I'm sure it's one that will please the fans. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, edging out Max Verstappen, who'll start from P2. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Perez, Norris, Sainz, Oscar Piastri, Fernando Alonso, Hamilton, Russell, Gasly, Albon, Stroll, Hülkenberg, Ricciardo, Tsunoda, Brown, Magnussen, Sargent, Joe, Bottas. The owner driver and Esteban Ocon lines up at the back of the grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
We just missed out on the points last race, so let's go and get some on the board here today.
Now, Mark, if you mean that we missed out on points last race, as in the sprint race, you're absolutely incorrect. The race before that, the actual race, yeah, I can accept that. We're just having a look at the strategy at the moment. Just seeing what's kind of best here. We might be looking at a medium hard. I think we're going to go soft medium though. It's about 5 seconds quicker. Take out a bit of fuel. We do have some fuel efficiency upgrades, which makes our car a bit lighter on the fuel load, which is good for us. And we're going to start this race, P16 on the grid. Lights are on. Now they're out as we get going for the Miami Grand Prix, the main race that we have this race weekend. We're going to go down the inside of a bunch of cars next to the Aston Martin and the Haas. We now take it through turn 2 and 3. So we get a little bit of oversteer just there. It's actually Stroll in the Aston Martin, Hulkenberg in the Haas. Albon, our target, is directly ahead as they're going really slow through this S section here. There's a little bit of a break in the change. We're going to send it down the inside of Albon as he was starting to brake a little bit early, anticipating the cars slowing down ahead of him. And now we're 1 place behind the points paying positions. Now we do have Gasly in the way. We do send it down the inside very confidently and aggressive, trying not to run into the back of Hamilton. We do go horrendously wide there. There's not much grip on the outside as it's not the racing line. And through this S section here, am I thinking about going down the inside? Yes, I am. Very aggressive, almost spinning the back end out as Hamilton gets the traction being on the racing line. And Gasly is right behind us as well. He's looking to the inside now as well. We don't want to burn all of our battery, but we are doing. We're going to take it to the outside of Hamilton. We're now 3 wide down this very back straight, braking late as we dare to take it around the outside as there's still 2 cars to the inside of us, of Hamilton and Gasly. How we didn't end up in an airplane crash there, I will never understand. As you can see, DRS already enabled. Albon around the outside. We're going to try and cut him off a little bit there. Gasly and Hamilton side by side as we get all out of shape over that curve as Albon's really trying to fight for this position. As you can imagine, we told the media he was our rival, he was the guy we're gunning for, and we've got to do what it takes to keep him behind. And from here, it's all about keeping onto the back of Gasly, try and keep Alex Albon behind us as he's right behind us and he's looking to the inside. We're going to try and defend that position. He comes to the outside instead. We lock up the front left, trying desperately to hold on to this place. We do have softer tyres and we're not even matching the pace of the Alpine ahead of us on mediums, which is a bit surprising, to be honest, although I think it is more of a skill issue than I would like to admit. Now, moving on to lap 3, we have Stroll behind us, who overtook Albon before this clip started. We're now going to send it to the outside of Stroll, try and hold it around the outside, keep it nice and tight, keep our front wing in there, keep our foot in, so we can retake the position before we get to this S section, and nicely catch up to the back of this little train that seems to have formed behind the Mercedes of, I can assume, George Russell. Now lap 5, again slightly dropping back here from the medium runners. Stroll is all over the back of us. He is in a much faster car on better tyres. The car is not nicely balanced at this time. We're probably burning through our rears much faster than the front tyres, which is not ideal for any traction zones or for massive changes of direction. Now you can see here we're trying to burn a bit of battery. We've got DRS as well, but Stroll is just really committing and getting up the inside. We go horrendously deep there as now we've lost the place to Stroll, and we have Alex Albon straight behind us. He will be aggressive. We also will be aggressive. We've just got to hope that one of us sees sense and backs out of any particularly dangerous. I have no idea how I saved that. Absolutely no idea. That was very sideways, very scary, locking the rears under brakes, but we've got to make sure, again, we're aggressive, but we don't have the aggression that will end up... Oh, we've lost the car. We lost the car mid-corner. I was trying to say we've got to hope we have the aggression to not crash with Albon, but instead we lost it on our own. We dropped it mid-corner over the curb, and now there's a VSC. We don't have a front wing at all. It's gone. We probably ruined these tyres as well. We're on lap 7. So we could potentially box, as we're going to have to anyway for the front wing. Could potentially box for mediums to the end of the race. But we're 10 seconds down on the delta. We've completely dropped off the back of the pack. And even further from where we were. And now the VSC is ending. Now the VSC is ending. So we're not even going to gain from taking our pit stop now. We're just going to gain from the idea that we have a new front wing, I guess, but we've just lost heaps of time. There's no way about it. We lost the car. Skill issue. Absolutely skill issue. And, yeah. Nothing else to say. No excuses to be made here. Rears actually weren't too badly destroyed from that spin. I can only imagine that we dragged the fronts across the track as well, and that sort of burnt them out equally. But we're going to be dead last on mediums. Everyone else does have to box, except for Joe in front, who's just coming out of the pits now.
Okay, let's go now. Come on.
But
perfect job on the turn in there,
yeah,
mate. Looks like a nice stop time. We're happy with that
good
one.
stop time.
Okay,
Team did
stay
a good
clear
job.
of
They're
the
not
right
making
lane.
as many
The
mistakes
exit
since we
penalty for
upgraded
dangerous driving
the
if
pit
you
stop
cross onto the track.
equipment. But now we've got to make these tyres last to the end while still extracting some pace. And yeah, that's all we could do. Obviously we were last at the time we made the pit stop. Everyone else has since boxed. We're on lap 17 and we got Jarno ahead of us. So with that mistake, as we go extremely sideways there, I don't know how we managed to keep that out of the wall. Let's have a quick look here from an off-board camera we have, as that is so close to the barrier with our front wing. Just look how close this gets with this inside barrier. You can see this little micro adjustments through the slide. And yeah, we've got Bottas behind us. I'm assuming he had damage at some point and had to box anyway. So he's 20 seconds behind on softs. So at least we're not claiming the wooden spoon today. But maybe we can put Jarno Opmeer, essentially our employee, kind of have to prove why we're the boss here in this Budo Andretti racing team, and make the overtake. We can't make contact. We don't want to damage the cars and cause more cost to repair damages than we already have this weekend, and see if we can cleanly get past our teammate and maybe, just maybe, give him a bit of experience in racing so that he can get up there into the midfield a little bit more than he has been in the first few races of the season. Now we're all over the back of him through this snail section, and we're going to get the DRS down this back straight. We've got plenty of battery, so this should be a nice easy move, but it all depends how much Jarno wants to defend here. He does go a little bit defensive, not very aggressively I have to say, which is nice for us as a teammate. We do go a little bit deep into the corner. Jarno thinks about trying to hold on to the position, but he gives it up. He's like, hey, you're the boss, you pay my wages, I'll let you go first. That's absolutely fine. And now it's just all about clearing the DRS. We don't want to have any drama in the last few laps of this race. And let's see if we can clear him relatively quickly. I'm very scared of this S section in the first sector now, after what happened earlier in the race. And we've already pulled a second on Jarno. He's hovering around the DRS sort of zone, but we do manage to drop him. And just moving on to lap 20, there's no one in front of us near enough to catch, and Bottas is nowhere near enough Jarno to cause him any problems at all. But that's it. Overall, a relatively chaotic weekend, I want to say.
Alright, race over.
But
take care of the car on the way in.
It was our fault that it was so chaotic in this race. P20.
And in the end, there was no Verstappen. Max Verstappen, he takes victory.
Well, another race victory today. You could clearly see they're driving out there with very little pressure. You know they have the performance, they know they've got the car under them as well, and this has done no harm, of course, for their championship chances.
Here come today's winners. The team at Red Bull have done a phenomenal job recently, and it's clear to see that they've put in the work, and they should be so proud of the victory they've secured here.
Indeed, it must have been a tough fight at the top for McLaren, Ferrari and Red Bull. And obviously the reigning champ Max Verstappen claiming his place on the top step. Norris and Ferrari putting up a good fight, I have to say, in this first season. It's been good to see a multi-car fight for the front, and it's very close in the championship, which is even better to see. What I don't want to see is more of my skill.
After an event like that, who knows what the sport has in store for us next time out? Be sure to join us once again as we continue to bring you all the excitement of Formula One.
But yeah, what we don't want to see is more mistakes like today. First, in the sprint, the strategy call I made to box, saw the DRS enabled, thought there's a few laps left. Softs could easily go the distance and hopefully will provide a lot more grip. Didn't pan out that way. Clearly the same strategy call was made at McLaren and Ferrari, and that didn't work out for them either. So we're just on the wrong side of the fence on that one. And yeah, in the race we dropped it on our own, under pressure a bit from Alex Albon, who has now got 3 points ahead of us in the driver standings, as you can see there. And Alpine have now moved ahead of us in the constructors. So it's a close fight for the top. It's a close fight for P6 in the constructors. We just got to hope that in the rest of the season we can start to claw back a little bit and solidify our position. So again, Albon in the rivalry, beating us again by 1 point. So we're 3 points behind now with 3 races remaining. I think it was a hard decision to go for Albon. I thought that he would be a more even match than Gasly, but I think it's kind of proving to be the opposite. I think there's just a lot of upgrades that have come to that Williams and the Alpine that's really helped them at the start of the season. And yeah, that's it. Next week we're in Imola, which is not a sprint weekend, so the videos might not be as chaotic. They'll be a little bit more structured again, which would be nice for me and potentially for you. But again, sprint weekends, you get both races, so you get a bit of double dose, if you like, of some Formula One. And as you know and expect, highlights are now playing. You'll be able to watch them for as long as you want. There is actually a bit of a funny, I don't want to say glitch, it's not a glitch at all with the game, but there's a funny moment in these highlights. This is obviously of the full Grand Prix race, not the sprint, but in the replay, the highlight of the spin, of the crash, the camera changes and you kind of can't see the car, but it's just holding on that camera sort of point of view for a really long time, as it's just showing where I was kind of crashed and parked and trying to turn around. So yeah, I'll let you guys enjoy that. If you did enjoy, leave a like. If you're new around here or you want to keep up to date with all of the kind of the rounds, the races, the seasons as we go forwards in this year's game, please hit the subscribe and hit the bell just so you're notified as soon as I go live. Well, as soon as I post even, not live. But as soon as I post a video, you'll get notified and you can watch the newest episode every week. I think it's here, yeah. So it kind of just stays on this camera and just shows everybody else driving through because I'm not in the frame. But the camera is like, he's in this part of the track. He's going to be on camera. But no, I'm not. I'm just off. There's the rear end of my car. Just stays here for ages. But anyway, yeah, if you enjoyed, leave a like. If you want to sub. If you don't, I'll see you in another video somewhere. But I'm going to end up on your feed again. So there we go. Next race, Imola. This race could have been better, but we'll get them next time. Catch you guys next week in Imola.